Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 23rd day of March, 2023. So let me look at the numerology today to see if it's something I want to talk about here. We've got 3, 23, 20, 23. Well, not necessarily, I guess. Because if you add 3 and 23 together, you're going to get 26, so that's 8. And 2023, you're going to get, let's see, that would be 25, wouldn't it? No. Yes. So that would be 7. So no, I don't think I want to talk about it. I mean, there's the synchronicity between the 23rd day, the 23rd, and 2023, the 23 part, but not enough to really see some kind of a real significant relationship to talk about. So we'll just put that over there. I was thinking about it earlier. I was meant to do that earlier and I didn't. So anyway, it's just a weird day. So let's see. Let's go ahead and take today's runes from the Elder Futhark and from the Geomancy. Yes, on Monday we had Laguz and Carcer for the runes. We'll see what we have today. The reading on Monday involved partnership and boundaries. So we'll see if today we turn a page or if we're going to talk a little more about that. Let's see what we have. Well, we have Nathes. So definitely a different rune. Nathes is one of the 3 Norn runes of the Elder Futhark. Hagalaz, Isa, and Nathes. Nathes is the rune of the future. Nathes is the friction within to manifest something. It's a rune of the will, if you will, same as Sawillo is. But Nathes is something that you have Hagalaz that transforms within a fixed framework. Isa that freezes everything into some kind of an alignment. It stops unwanted behavior, things like that. But with Nathes, instead of with Hagalaz, where again it's manifestation or transformation within a fixed framework, there's still something that's existing that's left, and also part of the past that's left, right? It's not a complete transformation, whereas Nathes is more a complete transformation. And it's really focusing your attention, focusing your intention on manifesting something that's going to be positive and protective. It basically interrupts, you've got Isa here, the single line, and then you've got the strike through it that interrupts things. Same with Hagalaz. It's that same sort of strike. You've got Isa on both ends, and then that strike in the middle that's transforming something. Well, here you're interrupting that idea of alignment and freezing everything, and using that will to then focus your intention to do something about something, whatever it is. Let's take a look at the below side of things with the Geomancy rune. The reason that I do that, I call this the below side, is because of the Albus. It's because of the idea that Geomancy is of the earth. And so because of that, then that would be the below side. As above would be the spirit side of things, or soul side of things. Now, Albus is the opposite or complement of Rubeus. And Rubeus, of course, is some pretty out of control stuff there. It's misuse of force and all that. Whereas Albus, on the other hand, its complement, the other side of the coin, that's using wisdom. It's the sage. It's the sage within. It can represent somebody who's got a lot of experience, or it could be you. Is drawing that overall wisdom that you have, and clarity into the decisions that you make. Somebody that's going to be the one people come to, in other words, for advice. It could mean something like that as well. But if you're using the friction within to manifest from a higher level, then you're basically transmuting any egoic tendencies, and going with that overall wisdom that you get from the above side of things. And so here we actually have then the geomancy rune is a true as above so below type of thing, where you're taking that higher wisdom and employing that into your daily life. And letting go of the ego that doesn't really want to do that. It just wants to do what it wants to do. But it's having that awareness that, no, we need to step back for a moment before we go and act impulsively and do things that aren't going to really get us where we need to go. So now, whether or not that's going to continue the idea of partnership and boundaries, I don't know. We'll see. But at this point, I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. There have been some things that involve finances lately in this week, or in the week ahead, I should call it. I keep wanting to call it this week ahead, but it's not. It's the week ahead. The post I do for each week on the blog, and lately there have been some issues with dealing with partnership and finances, and some of it, usually it involves Venus, So I don't know, maybe it will. Maybe this is sort of dovetailing with that, but we'll see. At some point here, my almond oil arrives today, so I can take the rest of my cottonwood buds out of the drying room, and I can turn it into my seed starting room. I can put my lights in there and start starting my seeds for the garden. Some of them anyway. Probably most of them, I think. I can start now. I like to get things to be a little bit bigger before they go in, because we don't have as long of a growing season here. So whatever I can do inside, I try to do. So I've cut the deck. Let's take the cards. Well, I don't know. It may be partnership issues because I've got the Three of Swords here, but it's surrounded by the Magician and the Chariot. Again, the Magician is going to dovetail very, very well with Nathes. And then the Chariot is going to, well, I'm just going to leave these in the order they are. I'm not going to move them around. Let's see, we've got 7 and 3 is 10, so that's 1 plus 1 is 2. This could be, this could be partnership and boundaries. I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, with the 3, we're not really paying attention to boundaries there, are we? Or at least someone in your life isn't. But let's talk about the Magician. Here we see the Magician, assuming the as above, so below stance. You see the lemnis gate above his head. He holds either, I think it's a scroll. I don't, I used to interpret it as a wand, but I don't think so because the wand's on the table. I think that it's more like a scroll, and it's really about the word of the Creator. You see the garlands above here. It's card number 1 of the major arcana. You see his tools, which also represent the 4 suits of the tarot. You see pentacles, cups, swords, and wands. You see all the abundance below, the manifestation of you see the lilies and the roses down here as well as the roses up here. So beauty and healing and love and the lilies, indicating something new here. I look at the Magician as sort of a triumvirate between the Fool, the Magician, and the High Priestess. The Fool takes the leap of faith into form. The Magician deals with the physical reality of things, the manifestation of things, and then that's the outward stuff. And then you have the High Priestess that deals with the subconscious or the inner awareness from spirit. At least that's part of it. She's more than that, but that's part of it. Our dreams, all of that. But it's the subconscious state, whether this is more of the conscious state of things. So conscious manifestation is going to dovetail with Nathes. But basically, we're talking about alchemical balance with the elements here all on the table. We're talking about the life force, inspiration, manifestation, and also the development again of the will. How are we going to manifest today? And of course, with both cards being from the major arcana, the Chariot and the Magician, then again, that's relating to Albus and the whole idea of manifesting wisdom and clarity with both of those runes. Um, from a standpoint that doesn't really involve the ego, it's it's being able to step outside yourself and doing something for the greater good versus just for you. It's about service to self versus service to others. That's another thing that we talk about here, and making that distinction. Um, and then we have this this next in the thing. So how are we, what are we going to manifest? Are we going to manifest a betrayal? Are we going to again think of only ourselves? We see three heart or three swords piercing a heart. Two of those swords are behind the center one. And that's why I think that the general interpretation of this is betrayal, because there's something going on behind the scenes that you're finding out about, or you've kind of had a feeling about, and now it's coming out that yes, you've been betrayed in some fashion. Now, it could be a love triangle, it could be something else entirely, but you see it's very emotional. With the clouds raining down, even though this is a card of elemental air, being the swords. Swords is basically reflects elemental air, and that's the more mental types of faculties, if you will, in intelligence, balance, reason, judgment, honesty, uh, communication. But again, a lot of these cards will embody more than one element. In this case, it does, and so this is betrayal. It's very upsetting. Something has happened between three people, for example, and given that it's the three, and two have betrayed the other. And so, depending on where you fall in this, if in which sword you belong to, either you have been betrayed, or you're helping someone else to do the betraying. It just depends on how you want to read this. But if we look at this as the three of swords being the significator for the cards, then you have to decide what you're going to do. How are you going to move through an experience like that? You have the development of will, with both Nathis and the Magician, and the higher awareness that Albus gives you, to be able to step back and look at things in a way after you've gotten over the shock of it all, and to see the damage that's just happened, and to understand the whole details of everything. Again, details are going to be reflective of swords or the air element. If you are part of the betrayal part of it, then the Magician is suggesting that you're out of balance, that you're manifesting in a way that's harmful, that's not reflective of spirit. If you are the betrayed in this, then you're looking at, I'm gonna put these with the three up here and then the two major cards down below. So I have that it's going to look like this when I look at it. And so basically you've got again, the major problem that's happened here today is betrayal, and what are you going to do about it? So I think I'm going to read it from that standpoint instead of trying to do it both ways. But again, manifestation, what are you doing? How are you living your life? How are you, what is it that you're doing that raises you up, that elevates you, then does something like this. So let's just go ahead though and read it as you're the betrayed. And that something is, it's just, it kept coming into my head the other way. It's like, well, but let's just look at it from straightforward way here of you're the betrayed and you need to figure out what to do now. When you are betrayed, you tend to be off balanced from it. You have to get, like I said, you have to get over the shock of it all. And that's very hard to do sometimes. You get caught up there. But if you don't move, if you don't manifest something else, then you can't rebalance yourself. You can't find your new way forward. And I think that that's where the chariot is going to come in. Here you have the king in his chariot. He's at rest. His little sphinxes, the black and white ones there, they're down, they're on the ground, they're just sitting there. There's no reins attached to them. That can represent, now being black and white, that can represent the polarity within. The black would be the feminine within, or representing the void of creation, and here you would have the masculine side. You can also look at this as receptive and projective. Sometimes I think it's better to do it that way, look at it energetically instead of masculine and feminine, because then we get into gender, and that isn't what it's talking about. But it's talking about that receptive energy, the goddess-oriented energy within, versus the projective one. What are you manifesting? And again, that aligns with both the magician and Nathis here. But what we see in the center of them here that defines some of that is we see the winged disc. And then we see the shield with the dreidel on it. And the dreidel is upright. It's not over on its side. It's basically standing upright. And so there's a level of balance there. With the winged disc, you're talking about healing. And maintaining. This whole thing just represents, this whole lower half represents balance. And knowing, and then of course the overall interpretation I give the chariot has to do with the numerology of 7. Also, it has to do with observation. It has to do with coming to rest, letting the idea, if you think of this in terms of the scales, letting the 2 pans come to rest before you really see what you have. And that's part of the issue with healing and coming back into balance when somebody has betrayed you. You have to let things settle out. You have to let things come to a rest so that you can observe. Outside the idea of being emotional, casting blame, what have you, get into that part of it, and things are less clear. However, if you let things come to rest, you see the 2 towers on either side. That's another. Anytime you see 2 of anything on either side on tarot cards, it's talking about some kind of balance, some kind of middle ground, if you will. It could be that. Sometimes you'll see a tower on each side, or 2 tall trees on each side, or 2 rock faces on each side, and then you'll see a way in between, some kind of pathway in between. And that's really suggesting taking the middle ground instead of seeing things as either or. So some of that could be here as well. Here you have the triplicity of maiden, mother, and crone, although there's not really a moon right there. Just the way his garment is created there, it kind of looks like maiden, mother, and crone. So again, that triplicity of experience, past, present, and future, if you want to see it that way, mind, body, spirit. You also see the glyph, the square here, which is the glyph for earth. And so there's a certain sense of grounding about this. Knowing when to move, when to stay still, knowing when to take the reins and take control, and when to drop resistance. That's realistically how I interpret this card anyway. You also see the drape above and behind there with the stars, and that's going to indicate, and then of course the big star here on his crown, that's getting that understanding and that awareness from spirit. And then the 2 wheels on the side as well. Again, a card of balance, a card of balancing control versus receptivity, manifesting versus, stepping back and waiting and aligning in spirit before you then make that decision as to what you need to do. And so when you're talking about the 3 of Swords here and Nathis, you're having to stop and take a look at what happened, and along with the magician, where do I go now? How do I move forward? How do I manifest my new life? If this was a love triangle, And it is reflective of partnership and boundaries. Obviously, from Monday, obviously those boundaries have been trashed, but completely. Two other people in this equation have decided they're going to do something that is going to be really hurtful to you. So whether this was a love triangle or just a basic partnership, maybe in a business or a friendship or something like that, or maybe it's a coworker situation where you're working together with two other people and they decide to act in a way that shuts you out, perhaps. There's some kind of betrayal, or they decide that they're the ones, they take credit, in other words, for whatever ideas that maybe you've come up with, and now they're presenting it to the boss as their own because they can't come up with anything. I've seen that happen in life, where someone really gets basically messed with because they have not maybe had their eye on the ball. They trusted the situation because theoretically you should be able to, right? But you can't because other people have their own agenda. Well, that's what happens, whether it's a love triangle or some other type of triangle. Something has happened here, and it's happened behind your back. And so this could simply also, if you're not aware of this, it could be, but you've kind of been aware of it, it can be saying to you, you better take a look. You better take a look at what's going on here and be sure that you understand what's really happening. Is somebody acting against your best interests? Are they doing something that is actually harming you? And again, if so, once you step back and you understand the whole thing, then you can manifest what you need to do. You come together in some kind of alchemical alignment instead of having your emotions going crazy and you're reacting from that standpoint, or you're getting really, really angry and you're acting from the fire standpoint. You need to find a way to balance all of it and remain grounded in the earth element. The idea of emotions and will and all of this being wrapped up into one thing, it really and then to be able to see it clearly with the air element, all of that has to come into balance before you can then decide whether or not I'm going to do anything about it, or I'm just going to continue to sit back and see what happens here. Or I'm going to leave the situation and go on and manifest with not these something else that so that I keep my integrity about myself. Sometimes in a job situation, if people are going to undermine you, there's no point in staying there. If something is not going to if something's not going to resolve itself, if you're not going to be able to get any truth out of those people, if the boss isn't going to believe that, yeah, that was actually your idea instead of theirs, you may have no choice but to look for something else. Another work situation where maybe that's not going to happen. It's a different type of environment, and it just, the environment itself keeps that sort of thing from happening. If it's a love triangle, you may need to decide, what am I going to do about this? How am I going to see this? Am I going to leave now? Am I going to stay and try to work it all out? Or have I been so betrayed that I just can't do that? But again, it's up to you how you heal from that. And since healing's part of the chariot as well as momentum, it would seem to me that you have to take that time to be in charge of your own healing. And that would be another idea here behind the chariot when you look at it in conjunction with the Three of Swords. I think, though, that given that Albus is part of, as the Geomancy rune, seems to really be, it seems to represent the seven, which is, the chariot is the seventh card of the major arcana. And I think that given that's the below side, that's why I think I'm comfortable rather than putting them above. I could do it that way, have them above with the Three of Swords below. But I think that how you handle a situation like that, it can either devolve into ego, or after a time of a period of maybe respite when you're trying to figure everything out and get over the shock of what's happening here. I think that how you handle that, you can either handle it from an ego-based reaction, or you can handle it from the albus aspect of the lower energies here, where it's like, well, I need to get above all of this, and I need to see this for what it is, and I need to get that healing to take place. I need to heal the receptive and projective presence about myself, so that I'm not reacting purely from emotion, or I'm not acting purely from will. That I take a more balanced view of what this is, if only to preserve my own integrity and my own dignity within it. And so again, when you look at the magician and the chariot, in a very real sense, you're looking at two cards of balance, and an alchemical balance with the magician, and emotional and willful balance. So in other words, the water versus the fire. Water quenches fire, so everything needs to be tamped down. Everything needs to come to a rest before you make the decisions that you need to make. Again, if this is an extension of the partnership and boundary issues from Monday, this could be something again that you've been dealing with in whatever type of partnership this might involve. Again, it doesn't have to involve a love triangle for you to get upset about something that's happened behind your back. But again, it could. It's typically how we read this love triangle, with, yeah, well, anyway, it's typically how we read it. But at the same time, if we're going to have a 2 numerology for the cards total, the overall one to be 2, then again you're looking at love, you're looking at healing, you're looking at balance, reciprocity. There may be some response that you have to make, maybe even a legal response to something like this. If you find that you've been undermined in some way by somebody else, or 2 other people, or a group of people, if you've been undermined, there may be legal ramifications there that you need to consider. Whether it's in a love partnership, if it's a divorce or a separation, or walking away, or however you want to see it, that's one way that could manifest. But if it's and I mean, if it's a divorce, then obviously it's a marriage that you have to now go to court over. Well, the same is true for partnership issues. If you're say you own a business with 2 other people, and 2 of them undermine you as the third party in that business, that's a lawsuit, right? That may be what needs to happen, right? So again, there could be with the swords, that's also talking about legal issues, and being able to act from a higher purpose with both the magician and the chariot. Both seem to involve balance, with maybe healing a little more of a factor in the chariot. But coming to rest and being sure of your next move. That's usually what comes from something like this. Whatever this, however it happens to resonate for you. But I think that both Nathis and Albus are really stressing that the manifestation has to come from higher awareness. In other words, whatever you choose to do about it has to come from that level of thinking, instead of and with Albus it's the same thing. How we manifest that into our physical reality, it's got to be from a higher place of awareness, so that you're not reacting in a way that undermines yourself in the process. And so that you can then move forward with the magician and start anew. It's a new beginning that's in Genesis now, because things like this change things. Now the partnership may not dissolve, but there's got to be a new beginning about it, so that there's not a repeat of something like this. Maybe if it is a business situation, a partnership like that's where you've been undermined or betrayed by others, it may mean that it's time to get new business partners. before you can really move forward. And so, but there has to be that moment of quiet, that moment of observation where you let things come to a rest and you understand fully the situation itself, how it got there, where you need to go now, that whole thing. And again, then act with that inner will, that friction within to manifest something higher. And with Albus, again, doing that with clarity and wisdom instead of pure reaction. Because let's face it, something like this happens, and I mean, we're either crushed or we get angry and we act, maybe we retaliate, but that's from an ego standpoint. It doesn't allow that time to really understand what happened here so that and you don't need to have any more deception. That's another thing that the Three of Swords involves, is deception. So you have to know the truth of things, and the only way that you can know that is to let things settle and then do your due diligence to figure it all out. Maybe you can get the other people to be honest at that point, now that everything's been revealed. Maybe you can't, but bottom line is, it's not the time necessarily to act with the finality of those actions. It's time to let things settle and understand the situation so that you can manifest from a new place and build something new in your life from it. So, because sometimes when this happens, there's no rectifying it. And this reading isn't necessarily saying that, but it is a possibility. So, that has to be part of what you're thinking about. Is there anything salvageable, or is there not? And that can't happen if you're caught up in the emotion of what happened. And so, and the dishonor and the deception that's happened, you need a little bit of a chance to catch your breath and to heal a little bit, and be very clear in what it is you want to do. And that's where Albus also comes in here. So again, this could be an extension of Monday's partnership and boundaries reading, but again, I don't know. There was a lot of will involved. We had the Four of Wands and the King of Wands. We also had the Ace of Swords, and then we also had carcer, which was self-imprisonment. And sometimes when we see things in a way that doesn't allow us to see the truth, and maybe this is an extension of it. I don't know. I think what I'll do when I write this up, I'll put both days again on the blog, and you guys can decide for yourself how this resonates. If it seems like they're connected, maybe we got an inkling of what was going on with the boundaries aspect of the reading on Monday, because clearly this is a violation of boundaries. So maybe some of that is coming into a little bit more clarity. So I don't know, and that could be what this is. So we'll just kind of leave it as an extension of Mondays. But again, how this resonates, how both will resonate for you, you'll be the best judge of that to know if it does. But if there could be a piece of Mondays you can use to try to understand today's, then to put it in a little bit of perspective, then go ahead and use that. Otherwise, even though it may feel really unpleasant, it's telling you something you need to know. And it then puts you on a better path, If you have to let go of something here to be able to move forward, then that, that may happen. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It may feel bad in the moment, but then you get on the other side of it and it's like, oh, okay, well, as awful as that was, look where I am now. And so it could ultimately be that you think, well, that was fortuitous, it was really crappy when I went through it, but at least it got me moving into a better direction, and I've got a really good thing now. So it could be like that ultimately. I hate to leave everybody on a Thursday with something like, betrayal, but it just seems like having the two major cards here and then these two particular runes, it's the catalyst for movement into something better. So anyway, either fixing whatever happened here and resolving it so there doesn't have to be a breakup, maybe that's the outcome here. But if not, then you have to give yourself the time and space. You're in charge of that. They're not. All right. That's the most important thing to remember in a situation like that. At this point, once the betrayals happen, the people involved in that have no control over you now. You're the one that gets to decide how you move forward and how you heal from it, and the perspective that you put it in. So I'll just end with that. Thanks for watching, and come back again on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Click subscribe if you haven't done that. I'd love you to do that. And check out the blog. The web address for Stepping Aside is imsteppingaside.com. If you forget, just click on more here down below the video, and it opens up a little window that has a bunch of stuff in it, and it's got links to where I am, and the blog is up at the top. So follow me over on Substack, follow me over on Patreon, on Medium as well if you like. On Sunday morning in the midnight hour, early morning hour, look for the Exploring Tarot this week, or not this week ahead. I keep saying that, don't I? The week ahead, that post, and then also the daily correspondences for Work and Magic for next week. They'll be out as well. Also, if you want to subscribe to the newsletter, just on the left side panel down, just scroll down a little bit on the blog there, and you'll see it. Just put your email in there, and you can unsubscribe at any time if you've got too much email like I do. It's like, oh no more, But if you want to get all of the stuff I write for each week ahead of time, you can get that on Saturdays. Also, there's some other stuff in there as well, but that's primarily what it is. And so if you want that ahead of time in your inbox, you can get that by just subscribing to that. So I guess that's it. I don't need to tell you guys anything else that's coming up, but have a good weekend. And if you're ready to start some seeds for the garden, do that. I'm probably going to. I may do that on Sunday. I have to make some more oil and more liniment and all of that from the cottonwood buds from the balm of Gilead. And I don't think I need to make any more salve. I've got plenty of that, but I need to at least to get some oil, and that's what I bought the almond oil for. I used a combination of olive oil and coconut oil for the other, and it turned out really nice. But it's kind of a little bit heavy with the olive oil in it. But I did that for a reason, because olive oil in and of itself is incredibly healing. But I want to make some that's from almond oil, and plus I'm just out. I need to have some more. But so I've got that coming. It's going to get here today. And so I can get going on that. And then I can, I don't know if I made any actual tincture though. I infused some honey, a couple of jars of that with some cottonwood buds. That's really good for sore throats and things like that. Not so good if you do use tincture. That's why I used honey. But honey's going to take probably, between 4 and 6 months to really infuse, and so that'll actually be for next year. But that's sitting out there in the kitchen. But I need to do something with the rest of those, and I might save a little bit. I won't use so much that I use it all up, but I just need to get going on that. And once I do that, then I can take those shelves down, and because I use them for drying at the end of the season each year, I dry things there, and I dry them all season, all summer long. I'll dry stuff in there. But then at some point, right about now, I need to start doing more seeds for next year, and get my transplants going. So this is a good time to do that. I'll probably do that, get that going on Sunday. So anyhow, thanks for watching. We'll talk again on Monday. Be good to yourself. Be good to one another. And blessed be.